It's difficult to describe the apocalypse we find ourselves in. In the wake of our harrowing actions on the moon, we are thrust into the desolate expanse of Tranzit, a map ensnared in the clutches of a fiery, catastrophic maelstrom, an apocalypse of our own doing. This is a bit of a tangent, but I have a difficult relationship with this map. It has various flaws, and discussing them would be highly redundant for anyone who's been around at the community having played the map. Still, I have a personal connection to this map, as I'll never forget the vivid memories I had made waiting for its release. I must have been around 7 or 8 leading up to its release, and I remember it was a rather anxiety-ridden, tumultuous period in my life due to various family issues. Yet, I always had one thing to look forward to, simple as it may sound: Tranzit. I remember admittedly silly memories of my staying up and rewatching the Zombies reveal trailer over and over again, but when the game did release, I didn't immediately get the chance to play it, so I spent many nights just immersing myself into any YouTube video made on Tranzit, just wishing I could play it myself. It was around that time that I discovered Ben Down's music, and if you don't know who he is, it's pretty funny. He's this guy who somehow predicted like huge parts of the lore years before they were even put out there.
The race is in France. Or more specifically, the giant is in France. Literally. This video is for the future.
He might have known a few people over at Treyarch, I'm not really sure, but the main thing that he did was make music based on zombies, and there's this one song of his that I love, Ascend, that is basically a song based on Moon. The lyrics might not be the best, and the rap section is very corny, but the song itself just sounds so melancholic, and it really characterizes that part of my life, I feel. I got really happy when he remade the song around 2017, though the original still has that nostalgic and kind of forlorn sort of flair to it in a comforting way, and even though it's a song about Moon, it just colored Tranzit to be a bit scary for me, and I just can't ever really truly hate Tranzit, no matter how many flaws it has, simply for the comfort it had provided me. Obviously this isn't related to the video, but I just wanted to personally characterize this map because I felt like it. I do of course wish the map were executed better, as does anyone else. Like, you literally cannot play this map properly without turning the fog and the denizens off on the PC version of the game. What, don't believe me? Well, look only at this 15-second clip of the definitive edition of Tranzit on the Wii U, of course.
I like it a lot, it's very good.
Just hearing about some of the cut plans for this map, like how there were supposed to be 2 versions of the map, one pre-moon and one post-moon, and how the map would switch to the destroyed version upon completion of the Moon Easter egg quest. Stuff like that, you know, it just sounds so interesting and ambitious, and I wonder about what it could have all been like. But as we get to know the map a bit more, we discover how there are 4 new protagonists to get accustomed to: Misty, Marlton, Samuel, and Russman. Their purpose, however, is not one of autonomy, but rather that of unwitting pawns in a grander cosmic chess match of sorts between the now weakened Richtofen and the ever-vengeful Maxis. A choice dangles before us. Whose bidding shall we heed, and what unspeakable horrors await us in this nightmarish remnant of what was once a world? Well, considering how we've helped Richtofen get this far, we can ignore Maxis and continue to help Richtofen, as you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, or as I like to put it, when your dick's in this far, might as well keep going. The only catch is, Samuel Stuhlinger is the only one who can actually hear Richtofen. The other 3 can only hear Maxis, that is, if there are strong electromagnetic fields present. Maxis pleads for them to turn the power off, as it interferes with and overpowers the fields he uses to contact them. Keep in mind he is merged with electricity, so...
What has occurred cannot be undone. However, I realize the calculations were made in haste and could potentially threaten the entire globe. That was not the intent. I considered a possible plan B should this occur, but this plan would consist of creating global polarization devices that would... It appears I have difficulty speaking. Devices when the power... Shut the power... Me...
In turning the power off, he'd then tell you to power up a polarization device by extracting the energy from the zombies and the mysterious him, a being entirely composed of electricity. Unable to hear Richtofen, the other three believe Samuel literally has schizophrenia, but playing as Samuel, we do in fact hear Richtofen.
Excuse me, just getting used to the ether. Plays havoc on the pipes. Right. Kaboom!
Whenever I think of Richtofen's being the new announcer, I always think of this one comment and just die laughing for the next 5 minutes. But still, the question of why the others can't hear him still remains.
Hello. This is Jackass Flats calling any human community within broadcasting distance. This is a warning to anyone contacted by a group of mysterious voices. Several of our party began to hear the voices, and their competing instructions and incompatible demands drove a wedge down the center of the camp. Half of the camp is carrying out the demands of only through electronics. This voice is a big, long, and its ultimate goals unclear. The other voice cannot be heard by humans who have not been on the long madness this way lies. Neither of these instruction sets will understand. Those of us who have not chosen a side have been hunted by both sides, seeking to force us to assist them. Oh God, they found us! Oh! Get back!
In the aftermath of our actions on the moon, several survivor groups popped up in an effort to live through the chaos. Every group, however, had been contacted by either Richtofen or Maxis, causing a literal gang rivalry to form even during the apocalypse. Now, through various audio logs, you can piece together this anecdote of a man in a group following Maxis. The group had been trying to power the polarization device up for Maxis. The only issue was, that man began hearing Richtofen's voice.
What's that? Who's there? Yes, I can hear you. Of course I have. There's nothing else. No, I won't do that. How do I know you're not lying? You could be making all that up, huh? Well, sure, that only makes sense. Dude. You're lying. But, no, I see. Sure. Really? But they're my friends. Yes, of course I see now. I'll do it. I'll do it for you. For you and the flesh.
In a bid to sabotage the group and their aid to Maxis, he shoots one member of the group and injures another, before finally being subdued. The group did not succeed. Many tried, many failed. We, as Samuel and the other three, really are just another group of pawns in this cosmic power struggle. The goals of Maxis and Richtofen are actually one and the same, to create a link of polarization devices across the globe, starting with this tower right here. You can power it up with virile energy by killing zombies and using various wonder weapons, which would help Richtofen.
Jawohl! It's so hot and it's burning up!
Or you can power it up with electricity by making use of some portable electric devices and him, which would all help Maxis.
Yes! The spire is online! Now, if the other sites can only be likewise empowered, then perhaps there is still a chance to complete that which was begun so many years ago. Your help has been invaluable. Farewell!
Either way, you would succeed in powering up the polarization device, thereby unlocking the achievement Tower of Babel. The ideas in Pygmalion, the biblical Tower of Babel and whatnot, all come into play once more, just as the film describes Pawn toiling in the service of the inscrutable machinations of those in control, with our characters the unwitting pawns, toiling in service of either Richtofen or Maxis. With their autonomy stripped away, they feed the insatiable hunger of a higher power, entangled in manipulation and desperation for a better world, or even for a simple purpose of just existing. The Tower of Babel, originally a symbol of divine punishment for human arrogance, takes on a twisted irony in this map. Here, we are granted the choice between two malevolent deities, embodying the very hubris the Tower of Babel warns against. It's also a reminder of the consequences of playing God, resulting in a world that has become an unholy crucible of our own making. In the movie Day of the Dead, directed by George Romero himself, the protagonist Sarah works as a scientist trying to figure out the cause of the zombie outbreak following from the first film, Night of the Living Dead. The only people who could provide her the safety needed while working on such matters unfortunately end up being these guys who could very well be your typical mega bunch. Fortunately though, she ends up finding two mentally sane people contracted to be there, one of whom is Flyboy. Now, Flyboy sees the work Sarah is doing in trying to figure out the root cause of the zombie outbreak and just fails to see the value in that, believing that it wouldn't change a thing and the only useful course of action would be to plan for the future. He does come up with his own line of reasoning that could very well be true, given how much ambiguity there is surrounding the matter.
You want to put some kind of explanation down here before you leave? He's one as good as any likely to find. We've been punished by the Creator. He visited a curse on us. So we might get a look at what hell was like. Maybe he didn't want to see us blow ourselves up and put a big hole in his sky. Maybe he just wanted to show us he was still the boss man. Maybe he figured we was getting too big for our britches, trying to figure his shit out.
Even with how Richtofen remains at the helm of the Ether, the reality of the Vril-Ya society placing the pyramid there for such an event to occur in the first place completely strips away any autonomy he might have had. A glimpse of Richtofen's mental state can be seen in Tranzit's main song, Carrion, sung by Clark S. Nova. The topic really pertains to a certain theme of body horror, where as Richtofen is commanded by energy and forces he cannot truly comprehend, there still remains a certain piece of himself inside crying out for forgiveness as he commands chaos and damnation unto those below him. There is, however, an alternative point of view that the song could be in, right or wrong, but to understand that, we'd have to delve deeper into the intro cutscene of the next map, Die Rise. Or rather, into a few frames that pass you by in an amount of time that still lasts longer than the amount of time that I have played Vanguard. You thought I was gonna relate that shit to how long it takes for me to come. In the cutscene, a demonic voice, presumably belonging to Richtofen, is heard talking to Stuhlinger. And I use the term talking very loosely here. You can take 2 9-inch dicks down your throat and still speak more coherently compared to whatever the fuck this is, bro. Trust me, I've been there. But it seems that our good old friend Stu here is into eating zombie flesh, and that may very well be how he can hear Richtofen in his head, as eating zombies infused with 115 and Vril energy can possibly create a link between you and the Ether itself. Now, the Flesh is a faction dedicated to eating zombie flesh. This group had been referenced to in the map prior. It seems Samuel might have been part of this group, and considering the gang rivalries at play here between many of the different factions, who knows what being a member of the Flesh entails in this world. It certainly gets too all worried and shit about the other 3 potentially finding out one way or another. Not that a group aligned with cannibalism and occultism even needs a reason to be discriminated against, but like, playing as Stu on this map is an experience highly similar to one documented by the venerable Nick That Gaming Show. In essence, I'm on Die Rise, everybody look at me because I'm eating out a zombie. I had to put the word out there to maintain the syllabic rhythm, but I realize now that I could have indeed picked a better word. Oh boy, the zombies can talk now. Bro, never play the crack version of Zombies, for real.
Gonna shoot that Teddy on the moon somehow, like Adolf Hitler, anything is possible!
Pause. Did he just...
The Chinese Revolution has led us here, in the wake of Earth's destruction, with meteors raining down from the heavens and chunks of the Earth, once anchored to solid ground, now floating ominously in the sky like morbid ornaments, a testament to mankind's hubris. Amid the chaos, representatives for the American CDC, or Centers for Disease Control, investigate the gruesome metamorphosis the world has undergone. The infection, once limited to direct and perpetual contact with element 115 till one's death, now spreads like a malevolent plague, a byproduct of the 115-infused rockets obliterating the Earth and its atmosphere, casting any remaining survivors into a realm where infection is all but inevitable.
Attention all on this channel. This is George Barkley, former Assistant Director of the CDC facility in Druid Hills, Georgia. Prior to the destruction of our headquarters, our research found evidence that contaminants are now infecting the very air we breathe. As such, exposure of some sort appears inevitable for all survivors. Symptoms are variable, but most subjects display short-term memory loss, psychosis, delusion, and paranoia. Short-term memory loss has also been reported, but as of yet, I have been unable to confirm this. We advise all individuals to monitor their fellow survivors for signs of the above symptoms, paranoia in particular. Ask yourself, are those closest to you really who you think they are? Are they following their own secret agenda? Are they perhaps plotting against you? The dangers presented by such symptoms cannot be overstated. It was with deep sadness that I myself was forced to euthanize 14 members of my own team. My condolences to their families. I hope this message serves as a warning to all survivors. We must all do whatever it takes to ensure our future as a species. Thank you.
Richtofen, at the helm of the ether and its energy, still has the ability to control the zombies. One might draw the question of why he doesn't just stop sending the zombies to those that choose to help him with the polarization devices, but the obvious reality remains that if there were no threat of death in the zombies, no one would feel obligated to listen to him, let alone help him. He manipulates those who have consumed the flesh, commanding them to undertake a series of steps, promising a future without the undead lurking behind every corner, without death and without misery. But many are simply unfit to do the tasks, especially without the cooperation of their peers who don't partake in the flesh, and consequently don't get to hear Richtofen.
If there's anyone out there, please respond. I desperately need help. The others left me, and I'm alone and frightened. Help! I tried to do it right, but the others weren't listening. This piece goes here. This piece goes there. I couldn't do it on my own. I need help. I really do. The German man stopped talking to me, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
The map's main song, We All Fall Down, which kind of plays on this nursery rhyme, Ring Around the Rosies, that people think is about the bubonic plague for some reason, gives us yet another glimpse into the survivors' mental states, barely holding on to sanity and coherency as the earth crumbles and everyone is guided by a certain phantom. The only thing setting us as Stuhlinger and the other three apart is the fact of our being equipped enough to undertake the tasks required. And it took me like 2 fucking months to realize this, but the fact that the song is associated with the bubonic plague is kind of very clever on Treyarch's part, because a plague is kind of essentially what we have going on over here, and all the survivors are just dealing with that, singing the nursery rhyme that is associated with the plague. I'm gonna stop. Richtofen does not simply let such an opportunity pass by. Using the power of the ether, he resurrects us back into the past, if and whenever we succumb to the undead, essentially trapping us in a cycle where we are inclined to do his bidding no matter what. We still have the choice of aiding Maxis, but again, the lack of autonomy and being pawns for higher entities still remains in such a course of action. Now, aiding Richtofen revolves around a bunch of balls that you have to interact with, and I'm I'm legitimately not even joking here. You basically have to get the guy off. I mean, you gotta make a bunch of balls wet and...
Yeah! Make those balls wet, you whore! More! Keep going! You cannot have tried wolf, you cannot try wolf.
Look, I don't know either, bro. Like, this isn't even the cracked version of zombies. Like, this is just zombies, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, that was good. Maxis will no longer be able to get his filthy hands on those balls.
Pause. Now, after a bit of CBT, and I don't mean no cognitive behavioral therapy, the trope of how we helped Richtofen in the map prior comes into play once again, with your having to sacrifice a bunch of zombies for their virile energy, finally supercharging the polarization device present on the map in Richtofen's favor.
Holding back! Holding back! We're so close, we're so close, we're so close. I love it when we plan and come together! What were we doing?
Now, you can take the much more sensible route of just simply choosing not to fucking do anything that Richtofen might even hint of wanting, and instead help Maxis. The biggest pro in doing so being how you don't have to make the guy orgasm in order to progress the story forward.
Do not stop! I'm so close!
Maxis' step involves some random shit, bro. Like, I ain't even gonna lie, like, the venerable Buddha gets brought up at one point, and man, I should have really discussed the religion back in Dead Ops for real, but at the end of the day, the result is still the same. The device gets powered up, just in the favor of Maxis. It's worth reiterating how this is all building up to a climax where you have either done all of Richtofen's tasks, or all of Maxis' tasks. Just what either climax is remains unknown at this point, as we presumably get teleported away to the next destination at the hands of Richtofen to possibly finish this arc of the storyline.